Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a walkthrough and a review of the Heal Yourself reading cards by Anna Segal. This is a Rockpool Publishing deck and this is newer to my collection, but it's turned out to be such a unique addition to what I have that I really wanted to take the time to take you through all of the cards and share some of my experiences working with this deck and how I'm utilizing this deck in my personal practice. So if that is interesting to you, then please hang out with me. I'm going to just dive right in. So the Heal Yourself reading cards are described as intuitive guidance to transform your soul. And this is not the kind of thing, both in artwork and just style, that I would normally feel particularly drawn to. But can we start off by just pointing out that the box is really, really nice and sturdy. It's got a magnetic closure, it feels really good, and oh my gosh, look at the inside cover of this box. It is so gorgeous. I don't think I've been as attached to a box yet as I am to this one. It comes with a full size and full color guidebook, which we will be going through together after I show you the cards. So I'll set that off to the side. These cards are a pretty good size. Let's see. So these are quite a bit bigger than a standard tarot card, but about this right size for a standard oracle card. So they are really nice. I love the backings. That sigil back just is everything. So there is a cardboard tray in the bottom. However, it has no gaps for the cards to slip into, which I really, really like. And there are thumb holes so you can easily get the cards out. I will probably be putting this entire kit and caboodle into a oversized Peggy bag because I really love keeping everything together for this particular deck, because this particular deck, again, has turned out to be really, really unique in my collection. So for starters, again, look at these backings. They are so, so pretty. And the artwork on this deck is absolutely stunning. It is fairly confronting, so it's worth pointing that out. You do see some kind of gothic style imagery here, which again, not normally my style, and there is a bit of a body beautiful sort of aesthetic to this deck that, again, not normally something that I gravitate directly towards. But I will say that the art is beautifully done. It looks to be a digital art, although again, I am not an art expert by any stretch of the imagination. And I should give you fair warning that there's a fair amount of sensuality and some nudity throughout this deck. So let's just take a look at all of the cards and we'll go from there. There are a total of, I believe, 36 cards. Yeah, there are 36 cards in this deck. So the first card, Selling Out. Self-Sabotage. Dreams. This is probably the lightest card in the entire deck as far as theme. Sexuality. Sadness. Cycles. Pride. Procrastination. How teachable are you? Pay attention to signs. Take off your masks. Victim consciousness. Rejection. Soulmate. Wild. Inner child. Beauty. Say what you mean. Temptation. Family and tribe. I love this image. I love all of them. Healing. Have faith. This was actually a card that I looked up when I first picked up this deck to make sure I resonated with the guidebook entry before I purchased this deck. Patience. Self-love. Love that. Alchemy. Letting go. Help from above. Love. Discover your life purpose. Courage. Unleash your creativity. Phoenix Rising. Sexual arts. Entrapment. Home. And Hole in the Soul. So now that we've gone through all the cards, let me give you some thoughts on the cardstock. It feels pretty sturdy, especially considering the size of the deck. So it has a bit of bend, but it's definitely nice and sturdy. And there is a high gloss finish, but for some reason, it doesn't seem, I guess high gloss isn't quite right. It's not quite as super glossy as a lot of Oracle decks can be, but there is quite a bit of shine on it if you get it in the right lighting. So there's about the worst it'll be with my bright light, being caught in the reflection. Let's go through the guidebook, and then I'll share some thoughts about how I've been working with these and my experiences so far. So the guidebook is really, really well done. It is in full color. As I mentioned before, you have a table of contents that gives you the number or a page number for each card. There's a wonderful introduction as well as some spreads, although I'll be honest, I don't use this deck in this way. Although I do find it really interesting that there is a couple of interesting other ways to work with it, using a jumping card, using a pendulum. We don't often see ways like that to draw cards, which I really actually appreciated having in here. I also like the idea that they talk about an energy reading where you feel the tingling for the cards when you're drawing. This kind of stuff, I think a lot of us who've been reading cards for a long time kind of take for granted that we can do, but people who are newer to card reading or who just haven't encountered the idea of reading jumping cards or using a pendulum or feeling for energy when we're pulling cards, I just think that's really great that they included that. I say they, but it's Ina Segal that included that. So let's look at the way each card is laid out. So you have a full size image of the card, which is basically the exact same size as the card itself. So it's really, really beautifully done that way. You don't have to refer back to the card while you're reading the guidebook entry, which I really enjoy. There is a title here, the number of the card up top in this little filigree kind of deal. And then you get like a short sort of intuitive message, I guess you could say. And then there is an action, and the actions are different and specifically keyed to every single card. So for example, in the selling out, and you also get this sort of direct message up top and then some more descriptive here. So for example, with the selling out card, your integrity and inner strength are being severely tested. You have an opportunity to act with either fear or love. So that's the initial punchy message that the card has for you. And then it goes into more detail. Where in your life are you selling out or acting out of integrity? Are you in a job you hate? Are you living in a toxic environment and making yourself sick in the pursuit of financial security? This card asks you to find the courage to stand up for your convictions and take steps towards doing what you love. Selling out is linked to the shadow aspect of the prostitute archetype. When you connect to this archetype, you can examine your fears around survival, power, responsibility, and success. On the light side, the prostitute can lead you to freedom, self-expression, choice, and love. So this is a really interesting way to approach healing. We're looking at primarily shadow stuff throughout the entire deck. The action for this card: you have to make a choice about whether you will use your power, talents, and abilities for selfishness and exploitation or the higher good. Take a few deep breaths and focus on your body. Become conscious of where in your body you feel like you are losing your energy and your power. Place your hands on that part of your body. Visualize your prostitute archetype. It can look similar to this card or a darker version of you. Ask this archetype to show you where in your life you are selling out. Become aware of how this affects various areas of your life and your physical and emotional health. Ask your prostitute aspect to help you regain your inner strength and make empowering decisions. But if you go to a different card, so let's go to how teachable are you? The action: to create change, you need to start with something small, like the way you pour your tea. Eventually, you will change your habit. This builds confidence as you start working towards the big changes you need to make. In the next 48 hours, take a step forward towards changing some area in your life. This could be something small, like buying a journal to write your dreams in or talking to someone about your transformation. Then every day, do something, even if it takes only a couple of minutes, towards creating positive transformation in your life. Another thing you can do is ask yourself many times during the day, am I teachable right now? Or do I think I know better? People who are the most teachable experience the most success in life. Now, there's a very good chance that these messages are not going to resonate with everybody. However, I really love how action-based this particular deck is, and I would encourage you, if you find a deck that otherwise resonates with you, if there are certain things that don't, or certain activities that don't, or messages that don't, this is your deck to do as you will. Just using the cards alone in the way that they're intended, which is, I think, to work with a card to heal or work on a particular aspect of yourself or your shadow work, I think this can be an incredibly powerful tool, even if you make up your own activities, if you create your own messages. What is it you need to learn about that particular aspect? This deck came at a really good time for me because it came just as I was doing the shadow work part of Self-Worth Saturday. And so I ended up using this deck to do my 3-card shadow spread, with card 1 being I guess I'll show you the backs just to kind of demonstrate, but card 1 was the position of observing. What shadow aspect do I need to work on right now? Card 2 was about owning it. How can I best own this part of my shadow? And then part 3 was about creating conscious change. And I did this spread for myself and found it so powerful and useful. But I think overall, even after I'd worked with this deck for a week, the takeaway for me was that this deck is really designed, I think, to be worked with one card at a time, one aspect of self at a time. I don't think there was anything else in the guidebook actually that we didn't cover, but let me just take a quick flip through. Yeah, there's an about the author and an about the artist as well, I believe, in the back. Oh no, just an about the author. Interesting. I wonder who these are illustrated by. Does it say? I always don't like that when it doesn't show us right away. Artwork. Aha! The artwork is by Chris Ortega. And there's also some artwork by Drazenza Kimple. So, and it tells you which arts are by which artist. So that's good to know. I really prefer when that information is on the outside, but I understand that in this case, because there are multiple artists, that they credited those artists inside the book. So, one of the things that I find the most powerful about a deck like this is that each one of these ideas is very big. The idea of self-sabotage is huge. I did an entire Self-Worth Saturday about just that topic. The dreams is the only one that I think of all of these cards I feel like seems sometimes to be a little bit disjointed, but then when you go into the guidebook and turn to the page on dreams, you find out that the message is to be paying more attention to your dreams and to really key into your intuition. I do think that most of these cards really dive into shadow and into improving different areas of your life, bringing awareness to your life, and really taking tangible action steps to create a sense of taking your power back, of befriending maybe pieces of yourself that you normally neglect or ignore. And I've just found it to be really wonderful to work with one card for a while. So I've worked with a card for a couple of days. I've worked with a single card for a week. But how I envision myself using this deck long term is I will be keeping this deck with the other decks that I work with in a slow way. So for example, I pull a goddess from the Goddess Oracle deck once every full moon. I believe I'm going to be really starting to work with these on the dark moons. I also work with the Weaver's Oracle on the dark moons. But just having an opportunity to really sit with a shadow aspect or an aspect of personal healing for a lengthy period of time, and to either do the activity that is suggested in the book or come up with my own to address that particular area, is, I think, a really powerful way to work with a deck like this that just has a lot of depth and opportunity for growth and learning. I can't actually recommend this deck highly enough. I worded that funny, but basically I think this is really worth adding to your collection. If you are somebody that really likes to do personal growth, healing work on yourself, if you're working on self-worth, if you're working on self-improvement, then I think this is a valuable collection, or a valuable addition to your collection. Even if you have a small collection, it's just so unique. I don't have a lot of decks that really speak to shadow directly, or that really invite that idea of personal change in the same way that this one seems to. I also feel like this deck has this very direct way of speaking directly to the heart of what is going on at that time, or what is maybe rising to the surface or bubbling up from the unconscious, and what maybe needs to be addressed most urgently at that time. Again, I would really recommend sitting with these, if this is a deck that you end up picking up, and getting to know them, looking through the guidebook, getting to know what each card represents. This is one of my stalker cards, for example, and it speaks to wounds from a difficult or traumatic childhood. And that is something that I'm constantly addressing, dealing with, and facing. And I've continue to pull this card over and over again because there's still so much more work for me to do in this area. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I flipped through and shared with you my experience so far with the Heal Yourself reading cards. I have really been enjoying these, and I see these being a permanent part of my collection for a very long time to come. If you have any questions about my experiences with this deck, or if you have this deck and want to share some thoughts below, or if you just have a reaction to this deck, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Please share them in the comments down below. If you have any questions, things like that, definitely reach out. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and click the little bell to be notified of all my future content. Remember that if you want to book a reading with me, you can always check out my Etsy shop, which is in the bottom description box of all of my videos. I usually have several readings available at any one time. I would love to do a reading for you. And with that said, I'm going to sign out for now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you all again very, very soon. Bye!